Imagine the vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean during World War II, where unseen battles raged beneath the waves. No ordinary story, our tale today begins in those depths, following the harrowing journey of a German U-boat, the U-167, on a course of daring missions, relentless pursuits, and a tragic end beneath the sea. On Compressed History, we dive deep into the dark depths of the ocean to tell the dramatic tale of U-167, a steel predator turned prey in the deadly game of underwater warfare. Buckle up as we take a ride through the highs and lows of U-167's wartime story, encapsulating the bravery and desperation of those who fought beneath the ocean's surface. Our story begins in the busy shipyards of Deutsche Schiff- und Maschinenbau AG in Bremen. Here, on January 12, 1941, amidst the clang of metal and shouts of workers, was laid down U-167, destined to become a formidable force within the Kriegsmarine's underwater arsenal. Launched on July 26, 1942, and commissioned on September 12, 1942, U-167 was a Type IXC submarine, an evolution designed for extended patrols across the vast oceans. Measuring over 76 meters in length and displacing 1,120 tons when surfaced, U-167 was a leviathan of the deep, a true wolf of the Atlantic. Under the command of the capable Oberleutnant zur See Kurt Neuber, U-167 was equipped with 6 torpedo tubes, a fearsome 10.5 centimeter SKC-32 deck gun, and several anti-aircraft defenses that made this vessel a lethal opponent able to strike both sea and air targets. The crew were mostly young men, many barely out of their teens, well-trained and bursting with a mix of trepidation and excitement as they prepared to take their first plunge into enemy waters. The Atlantic was a vast hunting ground, and on the 7th of March 1943, U-167 set out from Kiel for its first patrol. The crew knew they were going down into a realm where death awaited around every corner as they slid beneath the surface. The sea was both their ally and their enemy, an enveloping protector that could quite easily become their watery grave. On March 17, 1943, U-167 struck its first blow against the Allies. In its sights was the British merchant ship Empire Banner, loaded with war material of great importance. The torpedo was launched with exact calculations, and a few seconds later, a deafening explosion ripped through the Empire Banner on its way to the ocean floor. This early victory was a triumph of the skill and determination of the crew, marking U-167 as a significant threat in the Atlantic theater. That elation of success, however, was leavened by the grim reality of war. Survivors from the Empire Banner clung to debris, a poignant reminder of the human cost of this particular mission. Fresh from its initial success, U-167 embarked on its second patrol in April 1943, with its sights firmly fixed on the vital lifeline between North America and Britain. The convoys were a major artery for the Allied war effort, and it was a matter of great strategic importance to Germany's Kriegsmarine to cut them. On April 9, 1943, U-167 encountered Convoy HX-231. It was a strong fleet of Allied ships with escorts on the lookout for any U-boat that dared to come close. In the darkness, U-167 maneuvered into position. It was akin to a predator stalking its prey. The tension aboard was palpable as the crew prepared to launch their torpedoes. In the periscope, the target, a Norwegian tanker known as Niestlé, loomed large. With a silent prayer, the order was given, and the torpedoes shot toward their mark. A muffled explosion confirmed a hit, but the Niestlé, though damaged, would not succumb easily and was finally salvaged by Allied forces. The encounter had brought into sharp focus the high risks and rewards of convoy attacks, where each successful strike came at the cost of intense countermeasures by the Allied escorts. The charges soon followed, shaking U-167 to its core, as the crew endured the cacophony of underwater detonations, their fate hanging by a thread. The war in the Mediterranean was turning against the Axis powers, and U-167 was called to bolster the German presence there. In May 1943, it set out on its perilous journey toward the Mediterranean, making its way through the treacherous waters of the Strait of Gibraltar. This narrow passage was a deadly gauntlet, heavily patrolled by Allied forces. Each hour brought new dangers, with the nerves of the crew stretched to the breaking point as they evaded detection and prepared for the next phase of their mission. The Mediterranean presented special difficulties. Warmer waters made the U-boat more detectable, and the Allies' control of the air and sea routes meant that constant vigilance was required. Still, U-167 pressed on, a testimony to the indomitable spirit of the crew, who knew that each mission brought them closer to an uncertain fate. Fate intervened off the Canary Islands on the 5th of April 1943. A British Wellington bomber of Niestlé 179 Squadron, armed with depth charges, spotted U-167 on the surface. The bomber swooped down, releasing its deadly payload. The sea erupted in violent explosions as U-167 was rocked by the blasts. Water flooded the compartments, and with systems failing, Oberleutnant Neuber faced a harrowing decision. To keep the submarine from falling into enemy hands, he ordered the crew to abandon the ship. The crew clambered into life rafts as U-167 slid beneath the waves, scuttled by its crew to keep the secrets safe within. The scene was chaotic, men shouting, the acrid smell of burning oil, and the relentless waves crashing against the lifeboats. The crew, now survivors, watched as their steel home disappeared into the abyss, a ghost ship destined to rest in the silent depths. The crew of U-167 was picked up by Spanish fishing boats and ended up being interned in neutral Spain. They survived the war, unlike so many of their comrades, spared the grim fate that awaited so many U-boat sailors. Their internment was one of the strange twists of their wartime fates, one that guaranteed their stories would be told, as opposed to the many who were lost to the sea. Decades later, in the early 2000s, divers rediscovered the wreck of U-167 off the coast of Gran Canaria. The site became a silent monument to the undersea warfare that had raged perilously in those waters. The wreck is a well-preserved testament to the engineering marvels of its time and a sombre reminder of lives lost in the brutal battle beneath the waves. U-167's story is more than a tale of a submarine and its crew. It's a microcosm of the unyielding and merciless nature of the Battle of the Atlantic. From the triumphs of early successes to the terror of their final moments, the challenges faced by U-167's crew are a clear exposition of the human dimension of war beneath the waves. The discovery of the wreck allows us to reflect on the bravery and sacrifices made by those who served in these steel coffins. Every bolt and rivet has a story to tell of ingenuity, desperation, and a will to endure against overwhelming odds. The sinking of U-167 poignantly brings us back to the high stakes of World War II's submarine warfare. It gives evidence of the bravery of its crew and the unending quest for victory by both belligerents. As we recall U-167, we pay respect to the memories of all who have served under the seas, echoing through the annals of history.